Welcome back. I'm Tedward and welcome to the 2023 Porsche 911 Dakar or however you'd like to say it. I'll get corrected no matter what. But this is the off-road rally 911 of my dreams. And if you think it is just a lift kit on a standard 911 GTS, well, you're sort of correct, but you're missing the point. There's a lot of clever engineering that goes into making this car function and work and be more than just a money grab from a company that has lots of options. You can now get a 911 in any fashion for any need, whether you need to go 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds or if you need to go off-road into the sand dunes. This does some pretty wild stuff, and it seems more and more appropriate the more I drive it because of the off-road tires and the lift kit. We're in Michigan right now. I'm here with Chris Brower, Topher Drives.
Hello.
And just driving around Michigan roads, I am thrilled to be in a Dakar because I can actually hit things at speed and not worry about carbon lips or cracking wheels or busting tires. The Dakar starts as a 911 GTS. It has a 3-liter twin-turbo flat 6 in the rear. It's got 475 horsepower, 420 pound-feet of torque. The Dakar, even on these tires, will do 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds, which is pretty outrageous. We have it in full lift mode right now, so that's why you see 7.5 inches of ground clearance under this thing. And it has steel skid plates under the front to help with that approach angle. But here's where things get interesting, because it is not simply a lift kit. Porsche, in their infinite wisdom, knew that if all they did was stick a steel skid plate under there, it may not do all of the protection and they may not have enough room for the approach angle. So what they actually did was they changed the cooling system to these twin electric fans. They took the front radiator out of the middle and kind of opened it up so that way you can go over things, and even if you do a little damage, you won't do a lot of damage. To keep it lighter, because we are adding some funky things with these big old tires, they also put in some lightweight pieces. So up front, you'll notice this is a GT3 style carbon fiber hood. In the rear, there are no rear seats. There's no kinder seats back here, just storage, very similar to a GT3. And it comes with the carbon buckets, which a little controversial. We'll talk about when we drive, because one of the cool things about this car is just how it smooths out all these ugly roads. New England is terrible too, so I'm not just picking on you, Michigan. But if you had the 18 ways, this would be like the most luxurious 911 they've ever made. Sort of like a 911T, you get the lightweight glass, so that also does some work in making sure that it's lighter, and it only weighs about 3,500 pounds. So despite this being very chunky looking with its bespoke bodywork and awesome tail, honestly, this is phenomenal, it doesn't ruin the experience of the drive by just adding a bunch of weight. The bodywork on the Dakar is pretty special as well. You've got steel skid plates up front and in the rear, but you have this incredible tail that really tells you this is something special, because this is not like anything I've seen on a 911. You have these plastic guards on the sides to help you out and make sure that you're not just trashing your beautiful paint. And what color is this again?
Shade green.
Shade green. I honestly have a hard time telling between these colors, because sometimes I'm like, is it Alex gray, fashion gray, shade green?
Yeah.
We need my buddy Will, PTSRS, to like help me out sometimes. Maybe my vision is going. There are puddle lights that tell you it's a Dakar, but it is quite bright out here, and you get the Porsche 911 Dakar rocker panels.
And the shade green continues on the door panels, the dash with the stitching, and then we also have a little applique of paint on the dash as well.
That's pretty
of
clever.
The shade green, yeah.
See, this is where my vision's starting to hurt, because I'm like, that's white. This is a special edition vehicle, so it costs a lot of money, but there's not a whole lot of them made. In fact, this is number 329 of 2,500. Inside, it's all pretty much 992 fare. You're not losing anything, but you do gain a couple things. In fact, over here, you get a lift, which pushes it up another inch, over an inch, really, 1.2 inches, I believe, over the stock ride height. So even if the lifted ride height of this thing isn't enough for you, you can go higher. More importantly than ever, gluing us to the road is an all-terrain tire. Up front on a 19-inch wheel is a 245 section, and in the rear, it's a 295 section on a 20. So quite a stagger, tons of sidewall, and as an air-cooled Porsche owner, I really am in love with the black Fuchs style wheels with the chrome edges. This looks really good. You'll also notice the black brake calipers and steel rotors. This does not have PCCBs. It does not need them. And it's kind of interesting to get into a very expensive, over $200,000 Porsche and not feel that instant crazy bite of a PCCB. Let's find out what's in the frunk and in the rear. Wow, still a proper frunk, lots of room for stuff, so you don't have rear seats and you can put stuff back there, but if you don't want to have it exposed on that parcel shelf, you still have plenty of room and deep cavernous space for luggage. In the back, I'm sure we're going to get next to nothing of a view. Maybe we'll see two twin little electric fans, but actually, oh, it's probably just this. There it is. And they're running. So we've been driving. And under here, you can see the carbon fiber weave, so you know it's doing its job and saving some weight. So let's close it up, lift it up, and go for a drive and see if the Porsche Dakar is all it's cracked up to be. Got silver seat belts to make sure that we have some contrast in our lives. Ignition on the left. Jumps right to life. We have a digital display aside from our gorgeous analog tachometer. And one complaint, one bizarre complaint. I just have to nitpick this car because I think it's wonderful, but I think it's really hard with the carbon buckets to hit the window up and down switches when you're sitting in these, because your hands, you gotta like do this like kind of T-Rex thing to get to that. I just think that's like a strange thing and it's worth talking about. Put it in drive. We've got our bronze shaver, but actually it's like leather. I don't think I've ever seen one of these. Usually these have that knurling that you see right here. So that's kind of nice. And then we have different modes. So you have normal, sport, but for the Dakar, you've got rally and off-road. Rally mode will send 80% of the power to the rear wheels. This is an all-wheel drive vehicle. And off-road will send mostly 50-50. So we'll keep it in sport for now. Eight-speed PDK. Kind of the best in the business, as it has been for quite a long time.
And this car makes you hate all other gearboxes.
It's true. It's frustrating. They just do it so much better. So if you're worried that this isn't based off of a GT3 or a Turbo or Turbo S, it has plenty of go. It's still a very quick car, and I think having this be like one of the lower powered models versus those crazy ones, it just makes more sense for the ethos of the vehicle, of what it's supposed to do. It just hooks up too. Even with the all-terrain tires, it still has an absurd amount of grip. I mean, that's 0.96 G. We've done 1.01 G in it already. Like, this is what's nuts. It's like, it feels like you're sacrificing nothing for the drivability and livability. And then we're in the high mode too, so let's lower it. You can drive in that high mode up to 105 miles per hour. Straight through?
Yep.
You know, it's something really bizarre that it can handle all of this and have, like, not far off the ground clearance of my Lexus GX.
It's nuts. And we've been driving this mostly in high mode just because we're curious what it feels like. And we'll go through all those corners and we're like, oh my gosh, we were in high mode that whole time.
Yeah, you can't even believe it. Like, it just drives. It just does what it's supposed to do. I think the most remarkable thing is how almost unremarkable the car is.
Yeah.
This one.
Yep.
So, the Lamborghini Sterrato, it feels every bit a Sterrato. But the Dakar, it doesn't. Like, it just... It's a 911. And I can hit these ugly bumps. So, complaints. It's not about the Dakar. It's just the standard engine, the standard 3-liter turbo. I always feel like it's a little peaky. It's a little like, whoa, here it comes, and it nails you. I still prefer the feel of a GT3 when it comes to a naturally aspirated vibe.
Yeah.
Are we going right here?
Yep.
Okay. They told us not to go off-road. I think still counts.
I was going to say, this is a properly terrible section of road, and it's soaking it up. This is a good road if you want to try launch control.
Yeah, let's do a launch control and just see what it does. All right, let's try a launch control because I think this is a pretty special car. So luckily, Porsche makes this so easy. Foot on brake, foot on throttle. My favorite thing about Porsche is they make launch control so easy. Foot on brake, foot on throttle, release brake.
That hits so hard.
Like, you do not need a more powerful vehicle than this. And like, I didn't have to do any wizardry. There's no like buttons to hit. There's nothing fancy. It just hits. Let's try one in rally mode, because rally mode is supposed to be allow for a bit more slip on gravel. I mean, no slip, it's still like putting it down and doing what it needs to do, which is really incredible. But that's designed for like a gravel launch. So that's why it had a lower RPM on that launch. But you know, you can tell that they really just tuned this to be a special thing. And here's the thing. We're able to play with this car and get it to rotate a little bit at like 50 miles an hour. If we're in a GT3,
yeah,
we can't do that. We taking this one?
Yep, just go hard right here, and then get in the left lane, you should converge onto the highway.
This is just impossible. Like, I think it's fun because like you're getting a little bit of tire squeal, you're getting a little bit of rotation, but we're doing it within this realm of speed limits.
Yeah.
And that's what's great. Lowering the limits of insane cars, I think, is the answer to the future of fun driving enthusiasm, because everything out there, a GT3, a GT3 RS, Turbo S, these cars are so alarmingly fast, and the limits are so outrageously high that if you want to feel what it can do in a corner at its maximum, at its 10/10ths, you're at like 1.5 G. It's insane. That's over 100 miles an hour, whereas in this, we're able to kind of play this game at a much lower speed. Good. Still a 911, gets that lift off oversteer to help you through. And now we're on the highway, on a, you know, ever construction zone Michigan highway. They're always being repaired. They're always being rebuilt. We're taking this one? Okay. It's just such a treat to be able to drive this and know that I'm not destroying pieces of the car. How does it feel for the passenger seat? Like, what are you experiencing in this car?
Well, I'm held in nicely with the bucket seat, so that's nice. You do hear it creaking, though, when you go around corners, which is kind of funny.
The seats.
Yeah, the seats creak a bit. But overall, it's fine. I mean, it's still a 911. It's still, you know, a Grand Tourer. And,
this one?
Yep, right here. This is actually good because you've got a little bit of elevation right here. You can kind of just...
Are you trying to tell me to jump it?
Maybe.
Right here?
Yes.
Probably hit that at an alarming rate of speed. But the thing is, like, if we did that in a GT3, we'd be making a phone call.
Yes.
It's so funny. You can do crazy stuff in this car. But, all right, so you mentioned the seats. They're pretty stiff. They're very rigid.
Yeah.
You can't really adjust them that much.
Yeah.
I know this is a special edition car, and that always frustrates me because it means that it's going to be expensive, perpetually expensive. The secondhand market on this is always going to be some outrageous thing. It's always going to be coveted, and people are going to be afraid to put miles on. Left?
Yep.
And while that's okay, look, 1.08 G, that's amazing. While that's okay, I do think that the ability to have this with like the 18-way buckets actually makes the Dakar, if you just took away like its special name and you didn't have the rally modes, but you let it be like a lifted up 911 with big old tires and chunky sidewalls,
Yeah.
wouldn't this be the perfect like real life New England, Michigan daily driver if you had some money?
Yeah. Or Or are you kind of just describing a Porsche Macan?
Ooh. I want to drive a 911. I want to live with a 911, and I want that 911 to not like fall apart on me because of where I live.
Yep.
Even though I pay a lot of taxes and all this stuff, they don't fix our roads very quickly because winters are real. They tear things up. It gets destroyed. And I know this car's purpose is not just to weather the storm of like my ugly pavement, but it's really good at it. And so I'm genuinely not disappointed that Porsche was like, hey, don't take this one off road. We've got to, take care of this one. We don't want paint to get chipped. I think it's still a really good use case to drive it on these roads.
Yeah, this road is terrible.
This is bad. I mean, look, we can...
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I mean, I just would never do this. It's so weird. I'm in this cabin. I'm so used to being in a 992, but I'm used to avoiding every possible thing that could, harm a car. And in this car, it's absorbing all of it. And it's damped so well. Taking a right, I assume.
Yes, sir.
That looks promising. Let's see. So I do hope that some crazy wealthy person converts their GT3 into one of these. Just to see, just to know, because I want to know what that sounds like. The only difference is obviously you're not going to get an all-wheel drive version of it when you do that. Where are we going here?
Straight.
Okay.
I think you've still got enough drama here, though, as far as like snappiness of throttle, sharpness of gear changes, and that's just normal 911 stuff. But
Absolutely.
it isn't so sterile that you're bored. I think that they could go a little bit further to make it a little bit rowdier, but
I almost
pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I almost want to just take like a base Carrera and put it on these tires. I'm
Yeah,
sure it doesn't fit. I'm sure you have to retrofit a bunch of stuff, but like there is a level where you're like, wow, this is really the ticket to daily driving your supercars. And I think like we're onto something. I think the Storado and the Dakar have kind of allowed us to perceive a supercar in a new way.
Absolutely.
And maybe it's not all about making a race car for the street. Maybe it's about making cars that actually fit the roads that we have to drive on day to day. This is a better getaway driver than a Turbo S, honestly, because I can slam into potholes.
And go downstairs to escape the baddies.
You could absolutely go downstairs.
Yeah, you could.
It's just the right amount of drama. I knew I was gonna like it. I mean, I knew I was gonna like it. It's obviously awesome, but is it this one? Yeah. Brakes, fantastic. I think, like, man, this is just so much fun. So I think that's going to do it for the Porsche Dakar. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one.
I want to stay left.
It just goes through that. So we're taking this west.
Stay left.
Oh, stay left. Sorry, I thought you were joking. Like, stay left on
No.
on the closed highway. I was like, I mean, we could. It's illegal, but the car will take it. It doesn't really matter what the pavement looks like.